Are minoxidil and finasteride are safe?
Using minoxidil topically, just applying it on the scalp, 0.5 to 1 gram, it literally changes your heart rate by on an average 1 to 3 beats per minute. A reduction in libido, a loss of sex drive. A major problem that persists is the incorrect diagnosis. Hold it tight with these two fingers,
Okay.
and you're going to try to pull them out. So I've got 2 hairs, right?
I got one.
Yeah, you got one.
Is oil actually useful?
If you're using coconut oil on your head, it may contribute to hair fall.
What's your opinion on PRP and hair transplantation?
I think that PRP is a scam.
How diet affects acne?
Whey protein, isolate and skimmed milk, so low fat milk, has the strongest correlation with acne.
For the people who are, facing problems with acne, many doctors suggest isotretinoin. So how safe it is to use and for the long term?
Isotretinoin also affects muscle recovery, exercise performance. It is linked to depression and anxiety. And you can actually see the structure of your brain change when it is on isotretinoin.
Abhishek bhai, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, it took a long time. I've been researching for a guy, that kind of a level of guy, but I finally found out you.
I'm glad you think that.
So the motto of this podcast is to provide solutions. In this era, modern era, we have ChatGPT, Perplexity, but still they are not finding solutions.
Yeah.
So I hope you will give the solutions today.
Oh, I'll do my best. Be assured.
So I don't want to waste the time. So dragging it. So जो कुछ मैं कहूँगा clearly रहेगा सब कुछ. Why are so many people, young people especially, why are they losing hair in this era? We have so many expensive products. We have too much information. But why?
Okay. Is it really accurate to say that more people are losing hair now? What if people care more about the fact that they are losing hair? Hence the perception. They are more aware about them losing hair. So earlier in the day, perhaps, in fact, you'd see a lot of middle-aged individuals who go completely bald and they don't care at all about their appearance, about their head, about their hair loss. But a man in his 20s or his 30s, the moment he starts losing a bit of hairs, he is concerned about it. So there are obviously lifestyle changes that have happened. There are obviously environmental changes that have happened, including pollution. But I would say it is more of an awareness thing. And it's a positive aspect that people are more concerned, more careful about their appearance, about their hair.
Okay, that's
Although I would say that the products that we are using more than what we need, simply because of marketing. If there was one reason that I were to give, let's say 2 reasons. The first one would be increased awareness. The second one would be increased marketing budget of companies.
Okay. So this might be the weird question. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much how much percentage of men invest in their skincare and hair care products? I mean, they take care of their hair and skin.
We've seen that the latest generation, the Gen Z and the millennials, in the consecutive generations, men are becoming more focused on their appearance, on health and grooming. Can you guess which is the best selling cleanser in the men's category? You would believe it is something like Nivea
Cetaphil,
charcoal.
something.
Yeah, exactly,
Cetaphil.
exactly. That's the product. That's
Yeah.
a dedicated skincare product, right?
Okay.
It wasn't the case around 4-5 years ago.
Okay, that's good.
On a scale, I would say our last generation, it was 2.
It was 2.
Yeah. Right now,
the guys who are born in 90s.
yeah. Right now, it's 6, 7.
That's a pretty good scale.
Yeah, that's how much it has changed. For good. It's a positive change.
And one thing, many guys, they are really, they have fear in their mind. Are minoxidil and finasteride are safe?
Okay. The answer is no. Neither minoxidil is safe nor finasteride is safe, technically speaking. Because if you think about it, how was minoxidil discovered? It was originally a medicine to treat blood pressure. It lowers blood pressure, right? But a side effect, it was found, the scientists found that when minoxidil is consumed or applied, it causes hair growth. When it is consumed systemically in the form of pills, it causes generalized hair growth throughout the whole body. And
Oh,
when it is applied topically to a given area, it grows hair in that particular region. To be very accurate, it doesn't grow hair in that particular region. What it does, we have hair in pretty much every part of the body. It's just that they happen to be very small and very thin. You may think that you don't have hair on the nose, right? But if you were to look under a bright light, especially sunlight, in a mirror close by, you will find that you have hair on your nose, on your cheeks, on pretty much everywhere except for the palms and the soles of the feet, right? So, what minoxidil does is through the mechanism of increasing blood supply to hair follicles through potassium channels, it makes these hairs thicker, longer, and denser. So it turns these vellus hairs to terminal hair. Terminal hair is the one we have on the scalp, the one we have on a beard. So that's what minoxidil does. Now, since it lowers blood pressure, it might sound like a good thing, right? Blood pressure is being reduced. But what happens when our blood pressure is reduced? Our heart has to work harder in order to pump blood. Now, the nature of the human body is to adapt upon the situation, right? So, our heart responds by growing, and hypertrophy in these chambers of hearts is not a positive thing. This is why minoxidil is linked to cardiovascular problems. Also, by the virtue of the potassium channels, it also causes localized swelling. So if you're using minoxidil on your scalp, you may find that your face is more swollen than usual.
yeah.
That's a temporary concern, but the problem, the cardiovascular concern is real and problematic. Now, the studies that we do have show that on average, using minoxidil topically, just applying it on the scalp, 0.5 to 1 gram, it literally changes your heart rate by, on an average, 1 to 3 beats per minute. You may think it's not a lot, but in the long run, 5 years, 10 years, it definitely is going to make a significant difference.
Oh my God.
We now coming back to finasteride. Again, the way it works is it it would be accurate to say that finasteride is pretty much, along with dutasteride, the only permanent solution, permanent cure to male or female pattern baldness. Why is that so? Because androgenetic alopecia, which by the way happens in both men and women. It's not that it happens in just men. It's just that we assume that it's a problem which males face because it is more severe in males.
Yeah.
In males, you end up losing the entire head of scalp, right? You go completely bald. But that's not what happens in women. In women, there is diffuse thinning, hair density is lost, but they rarely go
Bald.
bald up until the age of 60, 70. So the usual clinical manifestation of androgenetic alopecia, which by the way is the biggest, I should say, diagnosed hair loss disorder. In men, the clinical presentation is that it starts with a receding hairline. Your hairline recedes in this pattern. So some hair is preserved in this region, but it moves back in this manner, and you also lose hair around the crown. So usually what you will say, men that have reached an advanced stage of androgenetic alopecia, They don't have hair in this region. They don't have hair in this region. But they almost always have hair in this region.
Yeah.
No. Why?
That's me.
Yeah. Why is that so? It is simply due to the fact that the androgen receptors in the hair follicles in this region are not the same as the androgen receptors in this part of the scalp. You must have heard that androgenetic alopecia is DHT driven, right?
Yes.
So if it is DHT driven, it is DHT driven, no doubt about that. But if that is the only cause, why does it happen in pattern? Why not throughout the scalp? That's why we call it male pattern or male female pattern baldness, because there's a pattern, right? Now, it's not just the DHT, as I just said, it's about how the androgenic receptors in the hair follicle respond to DHT, right? Which is why the region, the sites, the androgenetic receptors present in the hair follicles in these regions are less sensitive and less, I should say, more resilient to the effect of DHT, which is why we observe this change. In women, however, the clinical manifestation of female pattern baldness, which is also DHT driven, at least primarily DHT driven, is that there is a widening of the part. What does that mean? There's a comb line, right? When you comb your hair like this in women, you see this separation of.
Yeah, I saw, like,
Yeah, that starts getting wider, wider, and wider. So, yeah. In both these cases, pretty much the only permanent solution, the only long-term solution, which works to stop hair loss and also reverses it, is finasteride or dutasteride. They are pretty much the same class of drugs. They reduce DHT. Now, the question is, when the action of DHT is localized, when it is specific to the scalp, why should we reduce DHT throughout the whole body? That's what oral finasteride does, right? The 1 mg, 2 mg is the most common dose. And what we see is, in general, there's a 60 to 80% reduction in serum DHT levels at that dose in men and women. Now, DHT is a hormone. It has a purpose in the human body, right? When you're reducing it by 60 to 80%, there are bound to be problems associated with it, which is why one of the most frequently complained issues on finasteride, on oral finasteride, is a reduction in libido, a loss of sex drive, which may be present in around 5 to 10% individuals. Now, in my opinion, that's a very rigorous under evaluation. That's not the true number, because the threshold that we have for loss of libido is actually very high. So
Yeah.
if there's a small change in libido, the clinical setting may not classify it as a adverse event, but it's real and it's happening. Anyways, so you might think, what if I simply apply finasteride? That solves the problem, right? But it only does so partially. Why? Because when you are applying finasteride, there is some systemic absorption. I'll tell you very interesting maths, okay? The typical dosage of topical finasteride is usually between 1 to 5 mg, right? But when you are applying it on your scalp, let's say you are using a 2% solution and you take the recommended amount is around 1000 mg, and the 1000 mg of the solution, 1000 mg of solution, it will have 2% finasteride, right? So if you do the calculation, you will find that you are exposing your scalp to pretty much the same amount of finasteride, whether you apply it or you consume it. Which is why in various studies, what we have found is, even when you are applying topical finasteride, in the amounts that's a very important distinction here. In the amounts that is usually used, we see pretty much the same systemic DHT reduction of 60 to 80%. Now, that doesn't mean topical finasteride is, not superior to oral, because what we also have observed in various studies that we don't need to apply so much. We don't need to apply 1 ml of topical finasteride. We can get away with just using around 0.2 ml, and the systemic exposure of finasteride becomes so low that the serum reduction in DHT that we were talking about, it's just 5 or 10%. Again, 60 to 80% versus 5 or 10%. There's a difference of day and night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is this reduction in serum DHT which is the primary driver of the adverse events, primarily the sexual and the mood disorders. So to sum up your questions, yes, minoxidil and finasteride both have side effects.
Yeah.
You can avoid them to a certain extent, you can reduce them to a certain extent, but you cannot completely eliminate it. No matter what anyone on social media says, no matter what your physician says, even if your physician says that no, you're not going to experience any side effects, it's because that person is trying to calm you down. He or she does not want to nocebo you.
Guys, know this point. This is a this is a very important point. We are influenced a lot. We are influenced a lot. We are influenced by very big influencers. So that we have to note this point. So it's the amount of is the amount
Yeah, it's the
that
amount.
matter.
Yes, yes, yes. Through optimizing your lifestyle, through optimizing your nutrition, through adjuvant therapies, through supportive therapies, you can minimize the amount of finasteride and minoxidil that you are using by a huge degree. Now, a major problem that persists is the incorrect diagnosis.
Oh.
Yeah. See, the clinical manifestation of androgenetic alopecia that we just talked about, in men, as we discussed, it is more observable, right? But it is so only at an advanced stage. So within 1, 2, 3 years, you may not see receding of hairline. You will only witness when it has already advanced to a great extent. So, how do you diagnose it at an early stage? Can you guess that? Well, it's very simple, it's very obvious, but this method is hardly used in clinics because it takes a bit of time, but it's completely worth it. Trichoscopic evaluation. So, what the physician is supposed to do is to take a camera and put it around your scalp. On the video footage, the hair follicles are clearly visible. Even when androgenetic alopecia has just started, just by the virtue of looking at someone from a distance, you cannot diagnose it, especially when it has just started. Particularly so in females, because there's no specific pattern of receding hairlines, but also in men. So, what trichoscopic evaluation does is it takes guesswork out of the equation. When you look at your scalp through a camera, you can actually see the hair follicle, and what you will find is that you would find variable hair shafts. So, all in a healthy scalp, all hairs, all our hair shafts, they are supposed to be of uniform thickness. They will have the same thickness when you look at it under the camera. But if you have started experiencing androgenetic alopecia and it has just started, even in that stage, you will start seeing visible hair shafts that are thinner, and you will see 20 to 30% of your hair shafts are actually pretty thin. So that is one of the primary diagnoses for androgenetic alopecia. We call it hair shaft thickness heterogeneity. No need to use a complex term, but simply to say that the thickness of the hair shafts is variable, it's not the same.
So when should the men check that?
Okay, In my opinion, if you ever feel that you're losing hair, you should straight up get this evaluation done, because a lot of clinics today actually offer it for free.
Okay. Whatever the people, like, if you're, like, you're a 15-year-old guy and, you have.
28.
No. I'm saying example.
Ah, ah,
Example.
ah.
So you were, and I mean, you came for a background who have, like, many bald guys, your father, grandfather, like, your cousins. So I think male tend to start losing their hair from 15. Some men.
Some men.
Do they have to check from the age of 15?
Not necessarily. That there's no specific
Like,
age.
like, prevention, to prevent.
Yeah. I'll come to that. The primary purpose of this trichoscopic evaluation is to actually find it at an early stage, but also to differentiate it from other forms of hair loss. So, for example, there's a particular form of hair loss known as telogen effluvium. The name sounds complex,
I heard it.
but it's actually very simple manifestation, very simple treatment. Thankfully, it does not involve the use of minoxidil or finasteride. And I'll tell you a very interesting test right now, which everyone should do, by the way. Simply get a hold of your hair, around 50 to 60 hair shafts.
Okay.
You just pull them up like this,
Okay.
and then you're going to hold it tight with these two fingers.
Okay.
And you're going to try to pull them out, and you'll slide your fingers slowly, but you'll keep applying force.
Okay.
And you'll slowly reach the ends. So I've got 2 hairs, right?
I got one.
Yeah, you got 1. So now if you pick a random hair,
Okay.
and if you start to pull it,
Okay.
you will not be able to pull it out. It will be very painful.
Yeah.
Why is that so? Because the 2 hairs that were pulled out, they were in the telogen phase. So our hairs are in 2 phases.
Oh.
The anagen phase and the telogen phase. Most of our hairs are in the growing phase or the anagen phase. So when you randomly pick a hair, by the probability, it's almost certain that you will pick an anagen hair. And the anagen hairs are very tightly bound to the scalp. You can't pull them out easily. It will be very painful. However, through the natural life cycle of the hair, it reaches the telogen phase where it automatically sheds out, starts shedding out. So when a hair follicle has entered the telogen phase, it's very easy to pull it out. Around 10 to 15% or less of our hair are in the telogen phase. Now, we just picked 40 to 50 hairs, right? And we got 1 or 2 hairs. Someone who has telogen effluvium, they will find 5 to 10 hairs will be pulled out without applying a lot of force.
Oh.
Yeah, and this does not happen in androgenetic alopecia, by the way. So pretty much anyone who's facing hair fall, this is the step 1 that should do. We call it the hair pull test. They simply grab the hair, they slowly pull it out, and they check the number of hairs. If it's 5 or 10, it's very likely telogen effluvium. Now, what is telogen effluvium? It's simply because of any reason, a larger number of our hairs enter the telogen phase. So usually it's around 10 to 15% of our hair that are in the telogen phase. But due to any nutrient deficiency, due to any stress episode, a large number of our hairs enter the telogen phase. So what's the solution to that? It's very simple. Once you remove the trigger, your hairs will be restored. Because as I said, telogen phase is a natural phase of the hair cycle, which is bound to happen anyways. It's just that it happens all at once, that we see this huge number of hairs falling out when we take a shower, when we are using a towel. You must have also noticed that people come to you with the complaint that, I'm losing a lot of hairs very quickly.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If that is the case, it's very likely to be telogen effluvium, because androgenetic alopecia starts and progresses very slowly. It happens through the course of years and decades.
Okay.
Meanwhile, telogen effluvium, it takes just 2 to 3 months. So once the trigger is there, you will start experiencing hair fall after 2 to 3 months, because the telogen phase is of 2 to 3 months. Once the hairs have entered the telogen phase, it will take them 2 to 3 months to fall out, which is why if hair fall is happening around 3 months after a trigger event, it is very like, in fact, it is almost certainly telogen effluvium. Now, it usually resolves on its own as long as the cause is addressed. So, iron deficiency, for example. In fact, iron insufficiency is a contributing factor. Vitamin D insufficiency is a contributing factor. And I'm using the word insufficiency rather than deficiency, because you may not be deficient, but you may still be having insufficient stores of these nutrients. Because again, the threshold for deficiency is very low. It's a very severe form of insufficiency, right?
Okay.
Hypothyroidism also contributes to telogen effluvium.
My God.
Yeah. So if someone were to get a blood test done for telogen effluvium, or I should say hair loss in general, they should get these markers checked.
Okay. Which markers? Thyroid.
They should start with a basic thyroid panel, TSH, free T3, free T4. For iron, they should ideally get a comprehensive iron profile along with ferritin, B12 and vitamin D. Now with B12, sufficient ranges are not enough. You must aim for the optimal.
Okay. So you have covered pretty much things. So like in this modern era, like people have like so much stress, like relationship stress, family stress. How this is going to affect the hair loss?
Oh, definitely. See, stress contributes less to androgenetic alopecia. It's a very small contributing factor. Not that it does not matter, but telogen effluvium is the type of hair loss which can very much be completely triggered by just stress. So you may have sufficient nutrition intake, you may have a very good diet, you may even have a very good sleep, you may have a very healthy exercise routine. But if you have mental stress, you might get hair loss only by the virtue of stress. That's how powerful stress is.
I mean, how does it happen? Like the does stress increase inflammation?
Oh, yeah, the cascade, the mechanism is actually very complex, and it basically makes our hair follicles enter the telogen phase.
Oh, and this one is interesting. You might smile a lot. Like, is oil actually useful?
Oiling.
Oiling.
Yeah, so if you think about it from an evidence based perspective, you might think that it's not effective, it's just something that your mom or your grandmom told you, right? But we actually do have evidence to suggest that it is actually helpful. And more than the oiling itself, it's the massage which is helpful. It's the physical act, it's the physical mechanical stimulation of the scalp, which is supposed to improve blood flow and help with hair growth. So even if you're not using oil, you're simply just massaging with your hand, or if you have one of those rollers,
Yeah, yeah.
it will help with the health of your scalp and with the help of your hair. In fact, we have data to suggest that it actually improves the thickness of the hair shafts in observational, not just in observational studies, but also in randomized controlled trials. That's a very potent effect. Again, massaging your hair has no side effects, right?
Oh.
It's free, it's effective, you can use it very frequently, you can do it every day. And there's also a feel good factor about it, right? So I strongly recommend everyone to massage their scalp regularly, as frequently as possible. Oh, I should add a caveat to this. Coconut oil, using coconut oil, it's a double-edged sword. So if you have dry scalp, if you have dry skin, using coconut oil will obviously help. But if you have oily skin, if you have acne prone skin, it's a pretty good sign that if you're using coconut oil on your head, it may contribute to hair fall. How is that so? Because the specific fatty acids that are found in coconut oil, they seem to provide food for malassezia yeast, which is one of the main reasons behind dandruff. And dandruff is strongly linked to hair fall. The more dandruff you have, the earlier in life you have dandruff, the more likely you are to get hair loss. Interestingly, a lot of shampoos seem to help with hair loss and with hair growth. Ketoconazole, for example, is a very potent modality for improving hair thickness, hair density, and for fighting androgenetic alopecia. It does so through two mechanisms. First, it fights off dandruff. Second, it actually washes off some of the DHT, the localized DHT that is present on the scalp. So if you were to take a biopsy of your scalp, just rub a finger or a cotton swab, and you were to analyze it, you would actually find DHT there.
Oh,
Yeah. So once you're washing it off with ketoconazole shampoo, you've reduced the DHT that is present on the scalp, thereby reducing androgenetic alopecia driven hair loss.
that's quality info.
Yeah.
If you suggest, if I want to stop my hair fall, or if you want to suggest the people, what are the top 5 things you suggest?
Okay. If it is telogen effluvium, the first thing you need to do is get your head sorted. And by that, I mean take care of your stress levels primarily through managing your perspective. The second one is managing your nutrition, making sure that you're getting sufficient iron, B12. Third point would be to, if you have androgenetic alopecia, you have to have acceptance. Acceptance with the fact that either you will have to go bald or you have to use some level of finasteride or minoxidil, right? See, with the clients that I work with my students, if I do find that they indeed have androgenetic alopecia, my goal with them is to minimize their exposure with finasteride and minoxidil. I actually don't suggest them using minoxidil at all. It's just finasteride. Through During a duration of around 2 years, we see very good results with finasteride. That's something that should be noted. It takes 2 years for finasteride to show its full potent effects, to show the complete capacity for hair growth. It's not going to happen in 3 to 4 months, which it does so with minoxidil. With minoxidil, you see faster hair growth. In 6 months, you can see pretty good results. But with finasteride, it takes around 2 years. Uh, Coming back to acceptance, what you have to understand that some men actually can look better without hair. You see a lot of
My friend Gaurav Reddy.
you see a lot of these Hollywood actors, right? They actually look very handsome without hair.
Jason Statham.
Yes, exactly. Because
And Gaurav Reddy too.
their face structure suits it. But that's not going to be the case for everyone, right?
Yeah.
See, if you have hair, you can always shave it off. You can always carry that bald look. But if you don't have hair, you just have one option for your hairstyle, which is just to stay bald, right?
Yeah.
Uh, for the fourth point, I would say you can consider supportive therapies that may actually be very effective. So, caffeine, can you guess, it helps with hair fall? Not when it is consumed, but when it is applied to the scalp.
Really?
Yes. So, in case of androgenetic alopecia, caffeine helps. L-carnitine helps. It's L-carnitine is also a zoonutrient found in meat, which a lot of
By
bodybuilders.
applying?
Yes. Applying at a concentration of 2%. So these supportive therapies are actually very useful. Fifth one, it's very simple. Don't delay it. Okay. If you are experiencing a problem with your hair, please don't delay it. try to fix it as soon as possible. And make sure you find a good practitioner. You don't just go to any Tom, Dick, and Harry and you start getting something like the PRP infusions from.
Oh, well, like you said about PRP, like, what's your opinion on PRP and hair transplantations?
Yeah, I'll start with PRP, and here's my controversial opinion. I'll say it. I think that PRP is a scam.
Really?
Yes. Can you guess why? This is in spite of the fact that PRP grows here. The very simple reason is we have a lot of modalities that grow hair in the short term. They will improve the number of visible hair shafts on the scalp. But in a 5-year time period, is PRP any more effective than something which is much more simple, microneedling? The answer is no. And I'll share the truth. PRP is actually what drives the bills for a lot of clinics and for a lot of dermatologists. So many of the people that I've worked with, whenever they've gone to a dermat for their hair loss issues, they've been told about androgenetic alopecia, and then been given a list. Okay, so this is 3 grades of PRP we have. This is 5,000 for one treatment. This is
You know
10,000
one
for
thing?
one treatment.
Even I got scammed by
Yeah,
PRP.
yeah. This is 20,000 for one treatment, and you will need to take around 3 treatments to see results.
My friend Vani, you made me scam.
What sort of results are they which when they can very easily be replicated with something which is much more simple, much more effective, while also being safer? Microneedling. I strongly recommend against PRP given the cost to benefit ratio.
Oh God, this is brutal.
Yeah, yeah, this is the honest truth. This is the honest truth. Coming back to hair transplant, again, it's a matter of laziness, right? Because if the person who's getting hair transplant, if they were to be more aware, if they, I should say, woke up, they were sleeping, if they were to woke up at the right time, they would not reach a situation to get a transplant. Although hair transplants do work, they are very effective, they are reasonably safe when done at the right clinic. What we do need to remember is even after you get a hair transplant, you get these hair transplanted in this zone, right? Now, the hair follicles in these regions, although they are less sensitive to the effect of DHT, but there's still some level of sensitivity, right? Which is why in all likelihood, you will have to consume finasteride forever, even after getting a hair transplant.
Oh God.
Yeah. So if you have, there's no choice, right? When it comes to finasteride or dutasteride, there's no choice. It's only a matter of the dose. Can someone guide you well enough to make sure that you're getting a very small dose of it, just enough to reduce and stop your hair loss?
I'll ask questions regarding skin. In this modern era, we have too much information. Too many influencers, too many doctors, dermatologists. Expensive products, the quality of products. Yet people are facing skin issues, acne. So that kind of issues. Can you tell me the reason why?
You just actually mentioned it. It's primarily it has to do with too many products.
Okay.
Why so? There is a specific form of acne known as acne mechanica, which is caused by friction. So imagine if you're using 10 products a day, you are applying them all 10 times a day. You are rubbing your skin, you are introducing friction, and this is well documented. If you have excess friction on your skin, the mere rubbing of the skin will cause breakouts. And a lot of serums in the market, they have surfactants which are too harsh for the skin. So these surfactants are added in order to allow the penetration of the actives into the deeper layers of the skin, which is by the way not required. Niacinamide serums are the prime example of it. You will see niacinamide serums at a formulation of 10%, and it has surfactants and penetration enhancers such as propylene glycol. But you don't need any of it. Just good plain old good niacinamide 2 to 5%, which is added to a moisturizer. It's going to be more effective than a niacinamide serum because it's not going to irritate your skin. Serums are often very irritating to the skin because of the nature of the additives. In the niacinamide serum, it's not the niacinamide that's the problem. It's the other ingredients that are added to that serum. And it's the rise of these serums in particular which are problematic. Cleansers, thankfully, we are almost over with that era. But 5 or 10 years ago, you would have find a lot of scrubs in the market.
Yes.
So they had those beads, harsh particles, which were supposed to clean your skin.
Yes.
But it just, all it does is irritate your skin.
Okay.
And I think you have to give credit to some of these influencers too, who are teaching people to apply tomato on the skin, to apply potato on the skin, and to apply honey on the skin.
Yo.
See, some of these compounds are helpful, but the reason is just ridiculous. Why apply tomato slices, potatoes on your skin? Why? Because it has lactic acid. Are you serious? What is the percentage of lactic acid present in it? 0.001. Is that going to help? When you are applying 20 of those products, it's obviously going to be problematic. Not every food is compatible with the skin. Just because you can eat it does not mean you can apply it anywhere on the body. The prime example of it is salt. You can eat salt, but can you apply it on your skin?
No.
You can eat salt. Can you pour it on in your eyes? You can eat lemon, but can you pour it on your eyes? No. That's the reason. It's a food. You're supposed to eat it. You're not supposed to apply it unless we have very good evidence behind that.
And here is the main question of this podcast. How diet affects acne,
Yeah.
pimples?
This is my biggest problem with dermatologists. I should say a majority of dermatologists, not all dermatologists, they don't seem to care about it at all. Diet has a very strong effect on acne, much more than it has on hair fall forms such as androgenetic alopecia. In fact, your diet can be the primary and the only reason behind your acne. And if that is the case, once you fix your diet, your acne will be gone and it will be gone forever. The biggest culprit, no, I'll not get into the obvious. If you're eating junk food, fried, oxidized fatty acids, empty calories, sugar is strongly linked to acne. So you must have seen some of these hyper influencers on Instagram who started saying, yeah, actually that's fine. Cutting sugar is fine. Some of them have swung the pendulum to the opposite side, and they say, sugar is fine, you can have some sugar, it's not a problem. It is definitely a problem. Sugar is empty calories. There are certain populations where sugar is actually helpful. Individuals that require it, such as endurance athletes, the individuals who have to run a marathon.
Okay.
But for general population, it's actually a pretty good idea to eliminate sugar. It is not going to lead to any so-called eating disorder. Okay. The food group which we consider healthy, which is consistently and strongly linked with acne, can you guess? It is dairy. And the reason, we have identified the reason, it's the insulin index of dairy. You must have heard glycemic index, right?
Yes, yes.
Glycemic index is a measure of blood glucose response.
Blood glucose.
But insulin index is a measurement of the hormone insulin after you consume a particular food. So whey protein, for example, it has a low glycemic index, but it has a very high insulin index. And out of all forms of dairy, whey protein isolate and skim milk, so low fat milk, has the strongest correlation with acne. So high fat milk, it triggers acne. Low fat milk, it triggers acne even more. Skimmed milk, it triggers acne the most. Can you believe it? The less fat you have in milk, the more problematic it becomes. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
What I also find is that if you are an acne prone individual, you have oily skin, you get acne, one of the best things you can do to improve the condition of your skin and to reduce your pimples is to completely eliminate whey and switch to other forms of protein. It could be chicken, it could be fermented yeast protein if you are a vegan, and also try to reduce dairy intake as much as possible. Now, this comes with a problem. Your calcium intake can be compromised. So you have to it takes careful planning to pull it off while still being healthy. Yet another famous food that is supposed to be healthy, but it has a very strong link to acne. Can you guess? Dark chocolate. You'll find a lot of dermatologists claiming on Instagram that no, dark chocolate is actually good for your skin.
Yeah.
It's not good for your skin if you have oily and acne prone skin. We have enough evidence to show. Actually, there was a study in 1969 and it was published in a very reputed journal, which is JAMA. And in that study, what they did is they took a chocolate bar and they compared it to a placebo junk food bar. In this placebo bar, they added milk, they added dairy, they added trans fat, all of the unhealthy, nasty ingredients. To no one's surprise, both these bars triggered acne to the same extent. Both of them triggered acne to the same extent. But this study was used to claim that diet does not matter for acne. And this was happening from such a reputed journal. So we have to be very careful. For decades, this study was used to claim that diet does not cause acne. It was only in 2011 and after the studies after 2011 wherein we have found a very strong dose dependent link of acne and dark chocolate.
For the people who are, facing problems with acne, many doctors suggest isotretinoin. So how safe it is to use and for the long term?
Okay. Isotretinoin is actually very effective for the treatment of acne. It would be accurate to say that it is one of the most effective treatments, medications that we have for acne. However, it is not safe. We have very well documented randomized controlled trials that have measured reduction in testosterone levels after just 3 to 4 months of isotretinoin. Isotretinoin also affects muscle recovery, exercise performance. It is linked to depression and anxiety, and you can actually see the structure of your brain change when it is on isotretinoin. But since this is the only treatment we have, it's often given a free pass. You may wonder if this is the case, if isotretinoin is so bad, why do dermatologists often prescribe it? Now you have to put yourself in the shoes of the dermatologist, right? When someone comes to you with acne, it is very easy to simply prescribe them this pill, and in a matter of 4 to 6 months, they will almost certainly be completely treated and they will not have acne. Compared to what I have to do, I have to make a diet plan for the individual. I have to make sure that they follow the diet plan. I have to make sure that it has the right quantity, form, and bioavailability of every nutrient. And I have to observe this individual for 4 to 6 months, make sure to optimize their sleep, lifestyle, stress. You can imagine it takes a lot of work for me to do with a given individual, right? How easy it would be if the problem could be solved with just one drug. You take a pill and it's sorted. I will say it again. It treats acne, and in most users, around 60 to 70% of users, it permanently cures acne for life. But at what cost? It is literally affecting every part of your body, including your liver. Your liver enzymes are elevated. Your lipid profile is compromised. We often see increased cholesterol levels on individuals who are taking isotretinoin. Your libido is compromised. Your testosterone reduction is notable, and all of this happens in just a matter of 3-4 months.
So, like, you said many things about isotretinoin. So, like a reward versus risk ratio.
Yeah.
Then what is the solution?
See, the first and foremost thing is you have to make sure that you follow the dietary guidelines that I just shared, and you follow it to the T, which means you have to follow it 100%. You can't afford to follow it 30, 40, or 50%. In various studies, what we have found is just consuming dark chocolate, for example, just once, it causes pimples through a period of 1 week.
Oh,
So you have to be very diligent with it. We have some reasonably safer and pretty effective topicals such as azelaic acid and certain forms of retinoids, adapalene for example. Adapalene offers an excellent safety to efficacy ratio, and it can be used forever as long as it is used correctly. The formulations are correct. Formulations matter a lot because one compound which claims to be 0.1% adapalene from one brand can be very different from adapalene 0.1% from another brand. One of this can be microsphere, the other one can be a simple conventional formula, which strongly affects the stability of the active ingredient. There's also a well-known topical medication named as tretinoin. It is analogous to isotretinoin, but tretinoin is topical. It is very effective for acne, but we have to take care of the formulation and the way of using it such that it does not cause irritation. Tretinoin actually increases collagen production in your skin. It makes your skin brighter. It reduces dark spots. It also treats wrinkles. So it's very effective. Azelaic acid, it's systemically very safe. However, it can cause localized redness and burning sensation if not used correctly. So I think azelaic acid is one of the best compounds that you can use on your skin as long as you are under the right guidance. Now, unfortunately, most dermats, pretty much all, no dermat takes a good makes it a point to elaborate it to the patient that you how you have to use it, what's the amount that you have to apply, what's the pattern in which you have to apply, and how much you should wait after washing your face. So azelaic acid, for example, if you apply it on your damp face, you will get redness, burning sensation, which is problematic.
so like we are like like usually I'm an influencer, you know that, right? So I'm hearing about salicylic acid. What's your take on that?
Okay, salicylic
Salicylic
acid.
acid,
Yeah.
sorry.
See, 2% salicylic acid is promoted as being effective for acne, even in the form of cleansers and also serums. Is something very interesting. This out of this 2%, hardly any of it is going to be in the active free form at a pH of 6 to 7, which is the pH of the products or most products that we use. But if the same product is 2% salicylic acid is formulated at a pH of 4 to 5, the free acid available is more than 5 times. So 2% salicylic acid, 2% salicylic acid. This one is 5 times more potent than this. So specific formulations matter a lot. And you see these influencers and sometimes even the dermats that are promoting products that are inferior. So you have to be a little careful. Salicylic acid works, but formulation matters a lot.
Okay, that's good. So if you have any skin related or hair related issue, you can approach Abhi. So I'll ping his channel. I bought his course too, which is very worth. But the best part I'm trying to say is, he find out the root cause of your hair loss and skin. So आप अगर उनको ज्वाइन करें तो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा, क्योंकि मैं खुद बहुत सीख रहा हूँ जो एज ए मैं फिटनेस कोच हूँ, बट इनसे मिल के इनका कोर्स लेके आई थिंक 9 months हुआ शायद मैं आपके पास ज्वाइन हो गया।
Yeah.
9 months हो रहा, बहुत अच्छा सीखने को मिला है। एंड अगर एक चीज़ है, अगर तुम एक डर्माटोलॉजिस्ट के पास जाओगे, वो बोलता है कि तुम्हारे को ये यूज़ करो, बट ये बंदा बोलता है कि ये क्यों यूज़ करना है, एट व्हाट परसेंटेज दिस कैन बी यूजफुल, एंड डाइट, इससे बढ़िया आपको क्या होना चाहिए। सो आपका नेक्स्ट क्लाइंट मैं ही होऊंगा। इवन आई हैव सम इश्यूज बिकॉज सब एज अ फिटनेस कोच मुझे न्यूट्रिशन के बारे में पता है, बट आपको बेहतर पता है कि स्किन के लिए क्या वर्क करेगा, हेयर के लिए क्या वर्क करेगा। सो आई विल बी योर नेक्स्ट क्लाइंट फ्रॉम तेलुगु स्टेट।
I'll help you.